In today's video, I want to share with you guys 3 mistakes that I made repeatedly when I was trying to quit smoking weed throughout my active THC addiction. If you enjoy the content in today's video, be sure to check out the pinned comment or the video description for more free resources on how to quit smoking weed or to learn more about our one-on-one paid addiction recovery coaching programs. Mistake number one that I would often make when I was trying to quit weed was trading one addiction for the other. And as a disclaimer, I never had an addiction to alcohol. I was never an alcoholic. I binge drank too much in college, but that disclaimer is important for what I'm about to explain to you. When I quit smoking weed, often what would happen is I would wind up overindulging in other addictions that I had alongside my THC addiction. So I would quit weed and suddenly now I'm vaping a lot more nicotine. I'm chewing a lot more tobacco. I would quit smoking weed and suddenly, even though I have no interest in alcohol, now I'm coming home and every night after work, I'm saying to myself, oh, I'll just have a beer. I'll just have 2 drinks. Suddenly, I'm starting to do other things. Then I would put down weed and I'd put down nicotine and I would say, oh, instead of doing those things, I'm just going to watch adult media content. As long as I'm just doing this at night and I'm not drinking alcohol and I'm not smoking weed and I'm not using nicotine, I'm doing really, really good. And I think a lot of people make this mistake of trading one substance for another substance. And this happens in many cases very, very sneakily. And I recommend not making this mistake because not only is the goal to detox of the dopamine when you're quitting a drug, but the goal is actually to live a better life and to feel better. So if I quit smoking weed, but I'm drinking 1 or 2 beers every night or drinking a martini every night, I'm still disrupting my sleep. I'm still poisoning my body with arguably an even more toxic substance than cannabis. And I'm not going to accomplish the things that I set out to accomplish by quitting, right? I wanted better physical health. I wanted better mental health. I wanted to save money. I wanted to feel more motivated, more ambitious, all that stuff. By trading another substance in place of cannabis, it interrupts all those goals that you might be trying to accomplish. And then what happens? It's like, oh, I quit smoking weed, but I don't feel any better. I'm not getting anywhere. And here I am chewing tobacco, vapes, alcohol down at night. Not really alcohol, but you get my gist. It could be something else for you. Media content, video games, gambling, whatever. And I don't feel any better. So then what happens? You wind up relapsing on weed because it's like, oh, I've quit. I'm not doing any better, so I'm just going to go back to smoking. That's mistake number one. Mistake number 2 that I would recommend avoiding is having too high or setting expectations somewhere within the first 90 to 360 days of quitting. A lot of people quit smoking weed, and unfortunately, I think my videos might add to this, and they have this image that their life is going to dramatically improve. And I'll tell you, I've never talked to anyone who has struggled with an addiction who's quit and worked on their quitting and recovery process who hasn't improved their life, okay? That's a huge disclaimer that I want to throw out there. But in those first 90 days, you might be detoxing. You might be struggling with anhedonia. You might be going through some things. For the first year, you're learning how to live without a drug that might have been a big part of your life for the last 40, 30, 20 years of your life. So I would always quit and I'd have this expectation that like my life was going to dramatically change, even if assuming I was putting in the work and the effort to make it better somewhere shortly after quitting. And that just simply wasn't the case. Now being 7 or 8 years away from cannabis, I can tell you guys each year it's incredible the opportunities that I find myself in just by avoiding substances, how much my life has improved, how much I've been able to improve my family's lives. I can't even begin to explain it to you, the amazing things that have occurred for me. And I hear this from tons of people who quit drugs, but it took a long time. It takes time. And that's a big mistake that a lot of people make. And I think this is very common because when you're addicted to a substance, chances are that part of your brain that accepts delayed gratification has been kind of damaged. That's completing task A before you can reap the rewards of B, right? Because we're used to that instant hit of dopamine, that instant high, that instant rush. And if we're not getting that gratification instantly by quitting a drug, whatever that perceived gratification is, better relationships, more money, better career, more motivation, having our brains wired the way they've been by that addiction, it's like, oh, I might as well just relapse and go back to smoking again. So that's mistake number 2. Having too high of expectations, especially within the first 90 to 365 days of quitting. My motto for that time frame is to say it is what it is, and you just move on. Mistake number 3, I think, has to do with that just one more hit, just one more time. And this is where our brain magically brings us back to the first time we smoked versus the last time we smoked. Something that I had to learn to realize was as I would quit smoking weed, I would eventually start feeling better. And I would say to myself, oh, I know something that can make me feel even better than how I feel right now, smoking weed again. And I had this imaginary thought in my brain that it was going to be just like when I was smoking in college with my buddies and having a good time. It was going to be just like when I first started smoking and I was getting, what I thought was really good sleep and that it was really helping calm me down and really improve my quality of life. And I would jump back to the first time I smoked, completely forgetting that the moment I picked up weed again, it was going to bring me right back to where I left off. And that was a person who was suffering with weed addiction and all the consequences of addiction, Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome. If you don't know what that is, I've made videos on it. Early stages of psychosis, including acute attacks of psychosis, especially with the black market THC cartridges that I eventually got into. It was not a good time. It was not a good place. Yet my brain would convince me that by smoking again just one more time, I would go back to the first time. I simply had to remind myself, hey, this is going to bring you back to the last time, not the first time. The last time wasn't really looking too good. Now, I'm going to make a part 2 to this video where I give you 3 more mistakes to avoid when you're quitting smoking weed. So if you want to learn more, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, be sure to check the pinned comment in the video description to learn more about our one-on-one coaching programs. Conversations just like this is exactly what we help people with when we're coming up with a plan for recovery and sobriety and just helping people stay quit for the long term, not the short term. I'll see you guys in one of those spots, the next video, the pinned comment, or the description. Until next time.